All right, guys, welcome back to another Ashes of Creation video. I do want to apologize for the lack of videos in the last week and a half. I've just had a lot of real life stuff going on. Unfortunately, this is not my full-time job at the moment. And so when the job calls, I got to take care of that. But I am trying to make this a full-time thing. So if you do enjoy the content, please do drop a like and subscribe. It really helps me and the channel out. So basically, as mentioned in this title, this video is going to be a comparison between New World and Ashes. I did use a lot of my free time over the last week or so diving pretty deep into New World. And just because this channel is focused on Ashes of Creation, myself included, when Ashes comes out, it will be my main game. Playing and understanding other games in the genre is pretty important. It gives us a better basis for understanding the development cycle for Ashes and giving Intrepid meaningful feedback to make their game better. And this video is going to be a two-part series. So this video itself is going to be focused on the good things that I think New World did, and hopefully what Ashes can take away from New World and learn from and implement into their game. And then the next video is going to talk about basically the things I think New World did very poorly that I believe Ashes is already addressing or planning to address and change in their game that basically New World has had issues with, and a lot of other games as well. And New World is pretty similar to Ashes, and it's actually taken a lot of influence from Intrepid's designs in the game. And for those of us who want Ashes to succeed, we should also want New World to be successful. It's kind of like a more simplified, more casual version of Ashes. So if New World is successful and it gains a lot of attention and brings a lot of people into the genre, more people, or those people, will be more easily converted to Ashes when it does come out. And there's also something to be said for just being the best in the genre. So this kind of, what do you want to call it, sand park or theme box MMO style is something relatively new. And I think Ashes of Creation already is doing it better, at least from their design choices, than I think New World has. So if Ashes is the best, but a lot of people enjoy New World and is successful, then when Ashes releases, they'll be drawn to Ashes. So that's great. But anyway, why don't we get into the list for today? So the 5 things here that I think that New World did really well that I think Ashes can learn from. All right, so the first thing is sound. And I heard this a bunch of times while I was streaming or playing New World, and that was like how amazing the sounds were. And this is something that I think has been lost in a lot of MMOs. I mean, a role-playing game is essentially a storytelling medium. And I guess the min-maxing and the desire to be ahead of the curve means a lot of people don't really care about the story side of things. And therefore, they don't really care about the sounds or the music that really helps you get immersed in the world. It really helps you kind of tell the story of your character. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have played an MMO with the sound turned off. So if I'm raiding or doing PvP, I'll be listening to my own music in the background. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the music in the game isn't quite as engaging or quite as intense as certain moments want it to be. So playing my own music can help that. And other times while I'm kind of just grinding away in the game, I'll be watching a movie or listening to an audiobook. And let's be honest, sometimes that's exactly what I want to do. I want to just grind away while catching up on a TV show. It can be very relaxing. It's nice to do. So I'm not necessarily saying just get rid of that possibility, but I think PvP and raiding are kind of like a part of the core gameplay loop. And the music and the sound of fighting needs to match that, basically. It needs to help supplement the storytelling and the immersion aspect of the game. And I think Amazon did a really good job with all of the sounds in New World. I mean, everything from like mining ore to chopping trees to the sound of a musket firing. It sounds amazing. It's something you like when you hear it, like it makes you feel more a part of the world. And like even the music kind of changes at appropriate moments. You know, when you enter into a corrupted area, it gets more intense and kind of amps you up for what's about to come. And I do think this is something Intrepid is already aware of. Obviously, in the alpha, we're not hearing a huge amount of that yet, but I'm guessing we're going to get a bunch of iterations of different sound effects. And this is definitely something I will be focusing on giving feedback on, saying like, oh, we just entered this boss area, or as we got through this dungeon, or like, you know, we got into this huge epic battle that was like a 40 on 40 PvP. You know, if the sound doesn't, you know, start to amp up and really match that, like, I don't know if they can actually go ahead and make the sound something that is, I guess, procedurally generated. So maybe as more and more people are dying around you in PvP, it gets more and more amped up to get you like really into the story. That's something I'd really like to see. And obviously, you know, we'll give feedback on that as we go through Ash's testing. Now, the second thing I think that New World did really well is the gathering system. And the entire crafting system overall is pretty enjoyable, in my opinion. But I think it mostly boiled down to the gathering itself. And it's something I really couldn't help myself with. I'd be running from point A to point B and have to stop at almost every single node. And normally I hate gathering. It's just something I do because I have to. You know, as mentioned previously, I just do it while zoning out to something else. And the fact that everything in this game is gatherable and pretty much everything is useful does help. It kind of brings new light to the cliche phrase that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And it kind of became true because you'd honestly end up with more value from everything you gathered along the way than the objective at the end of your destination. And I know Ashes is in a very early implementation of its gathering system, but if they can get anywhere close to what New World has done with their gathering, I'm going to be pretty happy. The third thing that I think New World does really well is monster AI. And this has nothing to do with mob variety in New World. It's pretty limited in the amount of mobs that you actually fight, and most mobs are just kind of reskinned for different areas. I know a lot of people have actually complained about this, but the reason mob variety is so limited is probably because they spent so much time making each mob's AI very unique. And it's true, like it really feels that way. Each mob truly feels unique. Like when you're fighting a lynx versus a wolf, you know the difference. They fight very unique and differently, even though in other MMOs, you'd probably end up with, you know, they just are both two four-legged woodland creatures. They seem the same. I mean, pirates versus skeletons, they feel very different. And I think this especially comes down to tab target MMOs, where the mob just kind of runs at you, attacks, and then uses a couple special abilities. It doesn't like dodge around or move or do anything different. And obviously, you know, this is something that New World is very focused on. And hopefully Ashes can kind of do that while still having the tab target system in place as well. But the other cool thing about New World is the mob AI itself improves with mob levels. So it's not just its stats, you know, it doesn't just get more damage, more health and all of that. Like when you're fighting a level 50 wolf as compared to a level 10 wolf, the wolf is actually smarter, it dodges better, and it lands attacks more easily. It really gives you a sense of progression as you get better the more you fight certain mob types. And as I said, I really hope this is something that Ashes can kind of nail down, because especially in a tab target system, it's hard to get that variety in mob type. All right, so the fourth thing that New World does really well is the UI. And the New World UI is it's incredibly clean. It doesn't even have a mini map. It's just a compass at the top of your screen that kind of shows you the stuff you're tracking. And I know some people have already complained about this. People have said, oh, I want a mini map, but I actually really like it. I like it simple. I like it clean. I can pull up the map if I need to. The other thing is it forces you to get familiar with your surroundings. And I think in Ashes of Creation, where you set up a home and you like geography and or your location on the map really matters, it'll bring a certain sense of knowledge base to the terrain around you. So when you're in a big PvP combat, you can't just look at your mini map to see, where the paths are and where you need to go. You're going to be better if you're familiar with the terrain already. And I really like that aspect. But Ashes is also just going to have to be more complex than New World, right? Not necessarily the mini map, but I'm talking because it's tab target, because it's big, 40-man raids and 250 versus 250 castle sieges, and you have tab target healing and stuff like that. You're going to need a lot more raid frames and a lot more UI options. But one of the things I really liked about New World was the ability to see what faction someone was at a glance. And there was this little diamond with the color of the faction you were that was above a person's head. And it just made it so easy in PvP. Like, you don't want to stop and spend the time to read someone's guild name to see if they're allied or not with you. And so I really hope Ashes implements some kind of like icon above the head that gives you a quick idea of the guild they're associated with and maybe even the node they're associated with. It just makes a huge open world game like Ashes of Creation a lot easier to figure out who's on your team and kind of analyze the situation and respond accordingly. So yeah, I really hope this is something that Ashes implements. I think it's something very easy. You just have like an icon within, just say you have a circle or a diamond. The outer circle can be like the border of it can be the color of the node you're in, and the inner part of that can be the emblem of the guild they're a part of. So, and this allows, multiple guilds within the same alliance to kind of tailor their colors to kind of match up. It also adds some espionage aspect too, right? You could create a guild that looks very similar to an enemy guild on purpose. All right, and last is a pretty simple thing. I just think the armor sets in New World are amazing. It's cosmetics in general. And I know New World plans to sell cosmetics on release, so we'll have to see what happens there. But honestly, I think the armor in New World is pretty damn awesome. We were in a group of like 40 people getting ready for some open world combat, and each person seemed to have a really cool and unique look. And visual progression was pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious to people that were 40 versus 25. And I think Ashes is already doing this. They're giving a lot of variety of cool looking armor and different skins. But that is actually one of my concerns, is the cash shop and these skins that you can get from it. I want there to be unique armors and obvious visual progression. Like a cloth mage should not be able to apply some badass plate armor skin. And so this is something we'll just have to see as they start to implement how these cash shop skins and items work. How transmogs work. Steven has said you're going to have to earn the equivalent item in game. So I would assume that you would have to be wearing, cloth armor to apply a robe skin, but we'll have to see how it works. Then obviously I don't want any of those skins applicable anytime early on. Like I want the leveling process to be almost skin free, to be honest. There needs to be some kind of cost to applying these skins so that you don't have a level 1 mage running around in badass huge plate armor. But those are the 5 things that I think New World has done really well with their game. And definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll have the other video about what I think New World has done very poorly, that Ashes is doing pretty well, out as soon as possible. And I'll also be streaming a bunch of this week's alpha tests, so definitely swing by and hang out. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.